Hey everybody, Mark over here at Twanger's Turntable. I hope this finds you all well. Welcome to my channel. First and foremost, if you're new, I appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully you'll leave a comment. You'll like what you see. I'm not going to find a whole lot of fancy stuff here, just me and my music. That's what we do. Just another member of the vinyl community and just sharing my hobby and the vinyl. Not just the vinyl, other formats, including compact disc and cassette from time to time, but primarily vinyl. That's my format of choice, if you will. And for those returning, always appreciate you guys standing by and supporting me. Been a little under the weather. Pardon me. There you go. That's a funny saying when I think about it. Aren't we all under the weather? I heard that somewhere recently, and yeah. But anyway, yeah, not feeling my best, but I thought I'd get on here and post maybe one or two videos today if I can. This one specifically is for our buddy Jacob over there. Don't know if you've been to his channel. He's got a thread, and this is a response to that thread. I've been trying to take part. So far, so good. We've done A, B, C, and D. I'm going to submit my video here today for the letter E in my vinyl, not just my vinyl. I pulled a couple of CDs and cassettes because, as it turns out, I don't have a lot of E titles that start with E in my vinyl collection. I don't have a huge vinyl collection to start with, but certainly the letter E. So yeah, Jacob's Music Channel, KRI. I'm not sure if you were able to see that. Sometimes these things don't focus so well, whether it's the lighting of the camera or a combination thereof. But anyway, I'm going to submit a few here of letter E in my catalog. I'm going to start off because it's got a little bit of Canadian content, but it's their second release from 1990, and it's a band called Extreme. I should take the J card out of that. You may be able to see it a little better. Corner Graffiti, that's their second one from 1990. They're probably best known for Nuno Betancourt. He's a fantastic, amazing guitarist, and of course Gary Cherone. I'm not sure if he's best known for his time in Extreme or his brief stint with Van Halen as the third vocalist for Van Halen. A very short stint, though. If you're not familiar with Van Halen, I think he only appeared on the one album, Van Halen 3. Anything after 1984, I'm not that up on as far as Van Halen goes, but that's about Van Halen. This is about Extreme and their 1990 release. It's a good album. I'd actually like to have this on vinyl. I don't know how readily available it is. I've never seen it in a while on vinyl, but admittedly, I don't do a lot of mom and pop store shopping. Just haven't had the time for whatever reason. I just don't get a lot of time to go and pick through these stores. I attribute a lot of that to changes in our life recently, and we're always busy with our grandsons, which we absolutely love doing. So it's not a complaint. It's basically just a fact of life presently. So is what it is, as they say. So that's Extreme. Oops. I mentioned there was some Canadian content on this. That's why I started with the Extreme release from 1990. The Canadian content is none other than Pat Travers, who appears on Get the Funk Out. So if you don't like what you see here, get the funk out. That one. That's a pretty popular tune on this album, I would suggest. And yeah, the one and only Pat Travers here from north of the border. Well, north of the border, depending on where you are, but from Canada, appears on that tune. So that's part of the Canadian content. So just my brief little edit there. Pardon the interruption if you don't like what you see here. Anyway, letter E. And then a couple here from early 2000s kind of fall into that alternative metal. And I never got big into that scene, but there are a few acts I enjoyed. And for whatever reason, I picked up these two, one after another. And it's a band called Earshot. So if you're not familiar with Earshot, that, as I say, that's a good indicator. It's kind of that early 2000s. They formed in 1999, I believe, in LA. And they've just been a revolving door of members, with the exception of the vocalist. I can't even get this card out of there, but anyway, this is their debut here, and then the second one is just, oh, sorry, I just hit my mic. I know that makes an awful sound. The second one here is Earshot, and it's just titled 2. But yeah, if you're not into that, well, I don't know. I tend not to base my listening practices on what genre I'm into. I will usually try anything just to see if I do like it, regardless of the genre. So I would encourage you to try them if you have not heard them. It's easy to do nowadays, specifically. I mean, you go right here on YouTube and you can check out a lot of these artists, or Apple Music, or whatever streaming service you use. But this is their first 2. I don't have anything else. 2002 would be the first one. Not much to see there. I can't get the card out, and it's just crazy amount of glare. And that's their second one, 2004, the follow-up to that. I was trying to think of the vocalist's name. I think it was Will Martin. I looked it up, and it's not like I'm an expert on the lineup changes they've had over the years, so I won't even attempt to do that. Just an introduction to Earshot, which falls under the letter E. And I have to present this guy. I mean, this guy, although I'm not an avid fan, but a huge presence in my entire life from the time I was born, because my mom was a huge fan. And of course, I'm talking about the king, Elvis Presley. I mean, come on. This is a greatest hits compilation from '87. But yeah, it's got all his, I would suggest, most well-known songs on here. Hound Dog, Heartbreak Hotel, I Want You, I Need You, I Love You, Don't Be Cruel, I'll Never Let You Go, I Love You Because, Shake, Rattle, and Roll, Too Much, Money, Honey, All Shook Up, A Big Hunk of Love, A Fool Such as I, Don't You Think It's Time, I'm Counting on You, Baby Left Me, Wear My Ring Around Your Neck, I Need Your Love Tonight, I Got Stung. And I was actually surprised when I started looking this over that, Elvis Presley didn't write a lot of his songs. And I know most of you may have known that, but I've never followed Elvis Presley's career as such. Like I say, it's just always been a part of my life due to my mom, primarily. She was a huge Elvis Presley fan. So yeah, I've got to represent. I mean, being that it's E, I don't know if there's any artist more well known under that letter E. I would argue there isn't. So that's Elvis Presley. Another one, this was a blind buy. And this is a band I've been aware of for a long time, but never purchased anything, not even on any other format. And I just happened to see it in a bargain bin, and it was $19 Canadian. So I guess that's probably about $15 US. So I grabbed it just out of curiosity. Like I say, I've heard some of their stuff, and it's that very, pardon me, atmospheric. I don't even know what you would call it. Electronic, atmospheric, rock. I don't know the genre, but it's called Enigma. The band is Enigma. This is an actual release from 2000. And I know they've been around since probably 1990 or so, and they are a German band. I took it out of the outer sleeve to avoid the glare, and then I realized I still have the shrink wrap on it, so it didn't make much difference. But it's just something different for me, and I actually kind of dig it. It's like I say, I can put this on in the music room here. My bestie and I will sit here. She does her artwork over there, and I sit here and listen to music while we're both listening to music. And it's just something different. But yeah, this is their fourth LP from 2000. But it's a 2021 reissue. They reissued a bunch of their vinyl in 2021. What does this say? Maybe you saw it when I held it up there, but Enigma, the monochrome studio album series, 180 gram, whatever that means, heavyweight black vinyl. When I hear about that 180 gram thing, I'm not going to go off on a rant on that, but my buddy Steve over at All the World's a Stage had a good quote, and I believe it was it Emerson from Emerson, Lake and Palmer? And this was years ago, talking about the weight of the vinyl being 180 grams or 140 grams, whatever it may be. And a lot of it's marketing more than anything, I guess, is the bottom line. But I don't know. I'm not an expert in that regard, so that's not what I'm here for. So Enigma is another for letter E. And probably my favorite from this artist, certainly the one I would have spun the most over the years, just because in the early 80s, as a teenager, this was still relatively new. And it was a little more rockin' than their prior stuff. It's the 1979 album from the Eagles, The Long Run. It's actually the follow up to Hotel California from '76. But I really like this album. It's the first with Timothy Schmidt on there. And of course, any Eagles fan will be familiar that he's a dude that always reaches those high notes with "I Can't Tell You Why," and of course the replacement bass player. And it's just I love this album. I mean, those shoes, Teenage Jail. I mean, it's just the only one on here I'm probably not big on is the Sad Cafe, and even that I don't skip any of the tracks, but it kicks off with The Long Run. Most people will know the hits. I Can't Tell You Why. And then In the City, The Disco Stranger, and King of Hollywood round out side one. And I just love it. I love the flow of it. And then side two kicks off again with the big party tune, Heartache Tonight. I don't think you could go to a party back in the early 80s and not hear that song, even if it was like a party where a lot of my hard rock metal friends were, it was still something that would be spun. It was just a good party tune. It's kind of like AC/DC. AC/DC, I don't think by any measure is heavy metal, but they were everywhere. Good rockers, mind you. But and then Heartache Tonight it runs into Those Shoes, which I love the beat on that. Don Henley, love them or hate them. Just wow, the backbeat on that tune. I just love it. Teenage Jail, The Greeks Don't Want No Freaks, and The Sad Cafe, as I mentioned. So the Eagles, The Long Run from 1979. Now, this one is probably my favorite out of all of them, and there's a reason for that, and I will explain that. And it is Sir Elton John and Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Now, when this was released in 1975, I believe it was, I think it was relatively unprecedented, at least for Elton John it was. It's the first time that he released an album, and even prior to its release, it went gold. Before even being released. And then it reached number one within the first week in the US. And then, of course, within 4 days, sold 1.4 million copies, I guess. And you know what? I should have done some research on the art on this because I think it's, no pun intended, it's fantastic. It's an amazing piece of art. And I know it's a take on some old Renaissance I can't even speak. Must be the Neo-Citron. I'm sorry. But it's just fantastic artwork. And the reason why this one is special, and in my opinion, his last great album, is this is actually the last one to feature Davy Johnson on guitar. His original lineup, Nigel Olsson on drums, and Dee Murray on bass. And of course, for whatever reason, they didn't appear on another album for many years, but that's why I think this is Elton John's last great album. I love it. And thanks in no small part to my bestie, Jen, who grew up as a huge Elton John fan. And she's got an original copy of this. But of course, as a child, she had drawn all over it and the posters were gone. And so it wasn't in great condition. And I happened to score this one in the wild. And only the original release contains these items. There's a little booklet in there called Scraps, and it's just a booklet with a lot of. It's almost like a diary of Elton John and Bernie Taupin, and it's got a little comic strip in there and stuff like that. And it's really cool. A lot of photos from that time, the recording sessions and whatnot, and earlier, a lot of stuff in there. It's like I say, it's almost like a personal diary of photos and notes. And then the lyrics, there's a little booklet with the lyrics. And the first song on here is Dogs in the Kitchen, which doesn't actually appear on the album. But yeah, all the lyrics are nicely written in here with, again, more photos and whatnot. And some more artwork, some really cool artwork. And yeah, it's a really cool package, I guess, that only vinyl can do. Really, you only get this with vinyl. these large pamphlets, and again, the other item, I was happy to see this, is only the original release came with these pamphlets as well as this album art poster that came with it. And this happened to be enclosed, still intact. So really happy to score that last year sometime, whatever. But yeah, like I say, Jen's original copy was pretty beat up. We still listen to it, but this one is it's a huge upgrade to that. And it's one of my favorite Elton John albums, if not my favorite. I don't know. Madman Across the Water and Yellow Brick Road are pretty, and even Tumbleweed Connection. I mean, I love a lot of the early Elton John. Again, in no small part thanks to Jen, because I knew of Elton John. My brothers had the greatest hits, I think Volume 2 or something, and some of the other ones, but nothing like what she had. And just love his early stuff. But that's it. I'm kind of just rambling on now, but it's part and partial to the artist. It's still within context, hopefully, of what I'm doing here. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that because I don't feel so great, but I wanted to stay active here. It's hard to sit back and watch videos and even not watch as many as I usually do. For I like to support the other members of the VC that I really respect and enjoy their content. And there's so much of it that if you're gone away, everybody knows that's part of this VC, that if you're gone for a few days, it seems like an eternity. So that's my spiel on it, and that's my submission for the letter E. Like I say, go over to Jacob's channel if you've not already, and sub him up, and jump on the thread. It's not too late. I mean, we're going through a whole entire alphabet here. We're only at the letter E, so I hope you enjoyed this one. It's my letter E. I might even try to do the letter F, because that will probably be, this is Saturday, so by tomorrow he'll be doing the letter F. I might try to do that today and get it recorded. So, but anyway, that's another matter. Thanks for dropping by, everybody. I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this one. I enjoyed doing it, and I hope to see you again soon here at Twanger's Turntable. Take care, everybody. Cheers.